Hello, my name's Aaron. In November 2020, on my birthday, I lost Hannah. She died by suicide. She was 29. We had dated for several years. We weren't dating anymore. We still live together, and I miss her a lot. And I've written a lot about her. Okay. This is a story. Stories can be true. This is a story of me living and Hannah dying. And the story of everything that collapsed into the void in between. It's a story of love and loss, learning and growing, a story of hard times, a story of mystery. This story has no silver lining. This is a story of connection. Even suffering is a universal truth we all share. We all experience it. How can we connect more authentically over this suffering? How do we share these experiences? The reality is all of our individual stories include death. So of course, this story has death. And this is just one story of many that are being told about Hannah. It's mine and hers, a truly unique tale. And it's only half. She would have so much more to tell from her point of view. Her being a great storyteller, having a better memory. Her half would be a lot better, less typos, less rambling, more clear details, more getting right to the heart of the story. Hannah and I spent enough time around each other to be forever entangled. Our gravitational fields merged. We shared particles. Hannah, the world can see the shape of you in me. At first, the indentation of the grief was the most visible. That seemed inevitable at first, but hopefully I've shaped it into something different as time passes. I want people to see your impeccable music taste, your fierce critique of the systems of the world, your clarity in writing, your power of storytelling, your love of dancing and seeing live music. I am okay with what is visible right now, and I know it will shift as time moves on. Grief is sometimes called the uncomfortable gift, and boy, am I acutely aware that I bring it with me everywhere I go. How can I not? I have indeed become comfortable with this grief. I sit with the waves, I lean into the emotions as I choose. Let it pass. Of course, it doesn't always go that smooth, but I get more comfortable with each day. One coworker pointed out that it's very unusual how I'm able to talk about my grief, and often others don't know what to do with that. It throws people off, even when it's on everyone's mind. The stigma of suicide doesn't help with that. I am breaking some arbitrary, unspoken rule, which only seems to encourage suffering alone in silence, and I hate that rule. So when I show up with my uncomfortable grief gift, most folks freeze, deflect, or leave. Do they really have to experience some tragic loss to gain some grief literacy? What's a way forward where people can learn about grief outside immediate loss? I know my actions and words can ripple out, but what does a culture-wide shift look like? The few people who can accept my gift, sit with it, and maybe even share their own, these are my people I am most bonded with right now. They see me, I see them. We don't judge each other, we reflect and dive deeper. These are my people right now. I live in a desert. We were living in a desert. Everything here was already a little closer to death. The harsh environment is unforgiving. Yet people have lived here for as long as humans have existed. We lived in the desert together, doing our best. I am still living in a desert. I think part of living in the desert and being in tune with the land is the constant presence of death. Life and death can happen so quickly, like an arroyo floating. Sometimes things in the desert die quickly when they don't get what they need. I personally think the plants that bloom here, especially the cacti, are the most beautiful flowers. While I am still in the desert, it definitely looks a little more barren these days. It's a little more dim, more gray, more desperate. Years of drought lead to shriveled up hope. How much lack of water can someone survive and still believe the world can get better? If it's your job to report on the news of the world, how much despair and fear can you take in before it tears you apart? Lately, I've been thinking of juxtaposition. Everything's related. The extreme opposites we feel give context to each other. They can resonate, expanding what's possible for us to experience. Highs and lows have been a theme in my grief. I have long been a mixture of optimistic and realistic. They don't always align. I want everything and everyone to be okay, but my lived experience in the world tells me that will not always be true. I want silver linings. I want bad and hard things to make me stronger. But I know that often isn't true. Some people thrive, some people slowly or quickly shrivel and die. Here in the desert, things are more exposed, stripped bare. Hannah did so much in her short life, but the harshness of the world shortened her life. I am feeling so great now that spring has sprung, which brings that horrible feeling of, couldn't Hannah have just made it through the winter? I have all these great photos of her, like one that recently reminded me of her first performance at a local venue. She crushed it. We also had a huge fight that day. So much that she couldn't enjoy her first show, and I couldn't tell her how great it was. I'm always thinking of things I would love to share with her now. I would love to show her some new music. The reality is, we were not the closest when she died. We still shared, but not as deep and intimate as it once was. Humans can be so complicated. These thoughts inform each other. They simply can't exist alone, no matter how much I would like that. I became an arborist last summer. I've been learning so much about trees since I started doing that. They're amazing, incredible beings. They have evolved to live in community. They are connected through networks of roots, and even communicate through smells. They protect each other from bugs, disease, weather, lack of nutrients, and more. I see Hannah as an isolated tree, disconnected from our networks, exposed to all the bad shit in the world. A lone tree can only stand so much. So we're here, we're speaking of loss, and if I really lean into that loss, I suppose I must figure out what was lost. Answers include a reporter who leveraged her privilege to tell tough stories, a radio wizard, a storyteller, a dancer. Hannah loved to dance. A daughter, a sister, an aunt. Total goof. I'm thinking of some silly photos where she was wearing my glasses and had pulled up her pants really high, and I have some funny pictures of that. She was an artist who enjoyed drawing and embroidery. She was a talented musician. She was a helper who would go out of her way to lend a hand, a deep thinker, strong critique of the systems of the world. And she was a human with a gentle touch, a hand placed on my back as she moved through the kitchen. She was a traveler. She was an entirely unique spirit with a fiery energy that burnt out quickly. A person I will never see or talk to again. She was a sharer of many good memories with me, and a deeply tortured soul near the end. She was a person who fought like hell till the end.